Well, minutes from the Federal Reserve's latest meeting released just a short time ago revealed another round of easy money could be on the way. Joining us now with reaction, Kevin Hassett, a former Federal Reserve senior economist and senior fellow with the American Enterprise Institute. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Charles.
You know, this market rally the last week or so, a lot of people have said it's been because the Fed has really been pretty firm about keeping interest rates low and even perhaps revving up that money printing machine again. And here we hear again that perhaps that's in the cards, even though a lot of anecdotal data suggests the economy probably doesn't need it right now. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, that's right. Now, don't forget this meeting happened right before the great jobs report. And so it looks a little bit weird because they're much more negative than they would have been if they had the meeting a week later. In fact, they're even talking in these minutes about reducing the forecast for growth this year. But I think that the real news is that if you look at the discussion of quantitative easing, it looks like they're actually kind of shutting the door a little bit. I mean, it's still open, but more or less reading between the lines, what they're saying is that things need to deteriorate a lot if they're going to have quantitative easing. And I think that might be one reason why the market is heading down now, because I think a lot of market participants wanted to see a sign that QE3 would be on the way. And what they're really saying is if things stay the way they are, we're probably not going to see it. I think that's what the meeting minutes are saying.
This race to the bottom with currencies, you had the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England. We've got this LTRO coming up that everyone's bracing for, could be north of €1 trillion. Everyone pushing their currency lower by printing more money. Would that put pressure on the Federal Reserve to sort of reciprocate?
Yeah, and I think that's why they have the swap line set up. So as the Europeans print euros, we're going to print dollars and then swap them for euros. And so that itself is kind of like a quantitative easing as well. And so I think that really these minutes are saying QE3 is less likely than we thought.
Kevin, let's switch to the topic of tax reform. We know that in the headlines right now, the White House is considering changes to business tax code policy, at the same time also personal tax code. When you add everything up, does it add up to change? Does it add up to reform? Where does it weigh in for you?
Well, what the president wants to do is increase taxes on dividends. That's really bad news for equity markets. It might be another reason why we start to see them turn the other way. And then he wants to introduce this thing he calls the Buffett rule, but he hasn't really spelled it out. But the Buffett rule is this response to Warren Buffett's assertion that he shouldn't pay taxes as low as he does, and that his secretary should pay less tax than he does. But the reason he pays such little tax is that he's getting his income from dividends. And you know, all economists agree that capital should face a lower tax because otherwise it'll go abroad and create jobs over there. And so I don't think that President Obama has really put forward anything other than a campaign document. He's going to run on fairness and he's going to talk about the Buffett rule. But I'm not even sure that he would ever actually propose it because it would be such a devastating and negative policy. It would really harm the economy. So my guess is that the Buffett rule is all about campaigning, not about policy.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't have a proposal. They just say it, but they don't actually say how they're going to do it.
A lot of people said that about his budget as well. Kevin, let's talk about corporate tax reform. Amongst the highest, the United States' corporate tax rate amongst the highest in the world. What do you think lowering the tax rate could do? Do you really think it could bring business back to the United States, that jobs are being sent abroad because of what we're doing on the tax code front?
Sure. It's the biggest problem that we have right now, Shibani. In fact, you know, the corporate tax in the U.S. is a knife in the chest of American businesses. And you wonder, why are they making the factories overseas? You know, they're doing it in part because labor costs are lower, but really taxes are the big reason. You know, if they're putting silicon foundries offshore and there's almost no workers, right? They just hit start in the morning and the robots make the wafers. If they're doing that, then it's because of taxes. And so we need to cut the tax rate. Right now, we're, if you count state and local, about 14 percentage points higher than the average of our trading partners. And guess what? When somebody's deciding where to locate their factory, they don't consider us versus the average other guy, but us versus the best other guy, right? And so the damage this is doing to our economy is profound, and it's about time that we wake up and change it. You know, President Obama has said he wants to cut the corporate rate, but he, again, hasn't really put forward a proposal, and it seems like it's not something that's going to play with his class warfare theme this year. So I think there's no way we're going to see it this year.
And speaking of a knife in the chest, we're talking about one in the chest and the back with some of the punitive measures being thrown out there, in part with this insourcing thing. The president campaigning today in the Midwest and Wisconsin. Again, the theme is insourcing, and if companies don't do that, somehow punishing them even beyond these burdensome taxes that they already have to pay. Kevin, can you quickly, we've got a minute, explain to the audience where, in history how these Keynesian sort of philosophies have failed this country?
Yeah. So basically what President Obama's philosophy has been since he's been in the White House is that what we should do is ignore our big problems, ignore the fact that we're the highest corporate tax place on earth, and let's go out and buy a bunch of clunkers, and then it'll be great because it'll jack up the economy so much. And now, it's a ludicrous philosophy, but it's really what he's done. And it's failed us because it's stupid, okay? And so what we need to do is fix our problems. We need to stop being the highest corporate tax place on earth. Everybody knows it, and I guess we might need a new person in the White House to actually see it happen.
Kevin Hassett from the American Enterprise Institute, thank you so much. You covered a lot of ground, and we appreciate it.
Thanks.